Hey guys, you probably thought that I'd forgot about this iPod project that we started here a few weeks ago. I'd got it as far as removing the screen from the iPod, and I had to wait to get a set of screwdrivers to take these tiny little bitty screws out that are here and here. Well, a solution for that finally arrived the other day. Off of Amazon for $10 and some change, I purchased a set of screwdrivers that go from 1/16 slotted up to 3/32 slotted, and they go from a double-aught Phillips to a triple-aught Phillips, which this is what we need, a triple-aught, to remove those tiny little bitty screws from that shielding plate inside of this so we can gain access to the battery and unplug the screen and further dig into the project so we can get this thing finished up finally. So, like I said, I bought these off Amazon. They were supposed to be a different brand than what arrived, Master Mechanic. They're still made in the USA. They're Master Mechanic, but it says manufactured and distributed by True Value. Could have went to True Value and bought these things, but probably not for $10. But whatever, I got what I needed, and that's all that matters. But they're still made in the USA, and that's what matters to me. So let me dig out the screwdriver that I need. I'll pause the camera here, and be back with you here shortly. Well, folks, the triple lock screwdriver did the job, and like I said, there's the most important part that this screwdriver has to say, made in the USA. Anyhow, I have since removed the screen from the iPod, and remember, be very careful with this. There's our display screen. It has this tiny little bitty spaghetti-like interface that connects this into the iPod circuitry. Do not touch the back of that under any circumstance. I don't know why, but it says very clearly in the video several times, do not touch it. But you have to be careful because there's a little bit of glue along that edge. You have to be really careful of pulling that loose. And then when you unplug these two guys right here from that circuit board, be very, very careful. I used tweezers to do the job, and it worked pretty well. So we'll lay that over here to the side. Here's our little shield. And I don't know if you can make them out or not, but right here's our tiny little bitty screws that my triple-aught screwdriver had to take out to get to the internals. And here's the internals. There's not much to it. Up in here, this is your battery. This is a 3.7 volt, 0.39 watt hour battery. So we need to pull this out of here because what we got to get to, if you remember, is this switch right here, and it's right underneath of that battery. I've got the battery pulled back now in this iPod. That's the battery right here. And then you got to take this tape loose. I don't know how well this camera will make it out, but there's a tiny little bitty ribbon cable up inside of here that runs all along the exterior that controls the volume and the power, and then goes down into the main circuit board. You got to carefully peel this tape back and then take out, I took all four out, I wasn't sure which ones did it. You got to take this screw here and this screw here out, and the whole volume switch will drop down. And what's the culprit is that little guy right there above my finger, if you can make him out. Probably too dark to see it, but there's a little dot right up in here. It goes underneath the volume switch, or the power switch, I should say. And the physical outside power switch is not making contact with that internal button. It renders it inoperable. So now we got to try to find something to essentially glue to that button that's not big enough that when you push the button, it'll work for one, but two, it won't be too big that it'll always keep the button pushed down. And if that's possible, nothing on the control pad for the screen will work. This thing's very tedious to work on. So I'm going to take a pause for a minute. I am going to put the link to the video I found on YouTube in my video description for this video. So if you want to check it out, you can, and see how somebody who knows what they're doing does one of these instead of just one of those crazy basement hobbyists like I am. And you'll see how it's really done. A while back, I got a dark spot here in my bench, right up here above my variac, and some spots over in here. So I remembered I had these little touch lights out in the garage, and they put off pretty good light. So what I'm going to do is take sticky Velcro and affix it to the back of the light in two spots. These things take 4 AA batteries, but I have some rechargeables upstairs. I want to try to use these that are old. I don't plan on using this all the time, but it ought to work good for supplemental lighting. We're going to mount it up under the bench right over here above the variac. So we'll cut the last couple pieces of Velcro this side, and we'll attach it to the back of this and push her up in there and see how well it works. I got the Apple iPod Nano 6th generation put back together, and we got good action on that switch now. You can definitely feel that there's a action there. You can feel it pushing down on that button because it feels just like the volume controls. What I did was, like I told you last night, was just to create a glob of super glue, just a small little amount, and then pull the tip away from it real quick with my gel type super glue, and it left a little bump on there, just a tiny little bitty bump, and it was just enough to push that switch down. But unfortunately, I think we've got some other issues with this thing. I put it all back together and it's non-responsive 100% this morning. I don't think the batteries went dead. Sometimes you can activate these things by plugging, say, a set of headphones into it. Let's see if I can get my speakers from my computer over here to plug in. I'm going to turn that music down. There again, don't look like we got anything. I think that my wife's going to be getting a new iPod for Christmas. As much as I tried to get this one going, and it's a shame, you know, this thing's only 2 years old probably, and she used it all the time. Loved to listen to music at night when she was working by herself, and really enjoyed its companionship. But damn it, if Apple would quit freaking worried about marketing stuff to get it out as fast as they can, they could make a better product. They should have recalled these damn things from the word go, and that's all there is to it. It was a poor design. It should have been recalled. I don't care what anybody says. That's my opinion. This is my video. Blah blah blah. So, piss poor design. Bad iPod. And there we have it. That works out pretty good. You can tap it to shut it off. You can tap it to turn it on. And if the Velcro don't work, there's a mounting hole in the bottom of this. I can always just drill a screw up through the bottom of the platform here and fix it that way, but it's going to work out pretty good. And I'm also going to put a couple of them, or one of them, under the bench, because I use that for storage down in there. But At least this here gives me the ability to read the scale on the variac and look at a few other things. This is pretty dark on nature there without that. So, another repurposed item that's been sitting around for years in the garage that I had a brainstorm about, and it seems to have paid off pretty well. I brought that iPod upstairs here and plugged it in via its cable into the computer, and the computer won't even find it. It finds our internal hard drive, our recovery partition, my external hard drive, another partition, and our rewritable CD drive, but there's no indication of an iPod anywhere. And usually this is where it'll pop up as a mass storage device, and even Apple will not recognize it. It'll usually pop up, you know, right in here. If you have an iPod, you know how this works. It should come up right in here. So I do believe that this thing has bit the dust. We have more problems with what a broken power switch has shown. It does show that it connects when you plug it into the system, though. At least it did the first time. There, it unconnected. There. So it does show that it's making connection with the computer, but other than that, we are pretty much SOL on this thing. Well, there we go. Eject Apple iPod. Let's see what we have here. Apple iPod device. So it does know it's there. Mass storage device. Claims it's working properly. Got to do some more digging around. Here's a mobile device driver. Well, we're just going to do some more digging around. Maybe this thing can be salvaged. Maybe it's just something that being on unhook that screen, we got to go back in and reboot it or something crazy like that. So I'll keep you updated. Just a quick update on the Admiral 7T04 radio I'm working on kind of part-time behind the Stewart Warner, which is buried right now. This radio has been a challenge for as simple as it is. Just a lot of stuff packed into one tight little spot, especially right here on this grounding lug. There's a terminal strip mounted here, and both of these connections are ground. There's a ground here, and there's another ground here, and both of them are directly connected to chassis ground. And this had the wires wrapped around the binding post, around the terminal post. And I worked and I worked and I worked. I got out my 60-watt iron I've been using. This guy here has been, he paid for himself for like $3.50. But we worked and worked and worked on this, and I got the one wire out, and the thing was so weak it just finally snapped off the top. So I had to push the wires through the hole in the middle of the terminal strip, and then lay this yellow wire, which was brittle, I had to replace, back on top, and take the last two tabs of that terminal strip and squeeze them around the top of that and sandwich them in there. It's a nightmare, but it works. It doesn't look the best, but it's worked. Everything's solidly connected. Nothing wiggles, nothing's loose. I don't see any wires that are loose. Of course, the terminal sockets, the tube sockets are, because the tubes are out and they're really loose. New electrolytics are in. This is a .47. It replaces a, I'm sorry, this is a 47 microfarad, 47 microfarad. It replaces a 50, and a 33 that replaces a 30, which was this guy right here. No name on this one. I don't know if this is one of Admiral's own built capacitors. Still tests good. The 33 tests about 37 and the 50 tests about 64. But there was no shorts between either one. Just be safe than sorry. Replace these, and all the other capacitors are in there. Still have not figured out why they had this 10 microfarad to 35 volt electrolytic jammed in there. That's not on the schematic anywhere, and it doesn't even belong in there. It was between pin 8 on the stop and think, see what tube that is. It was on pin 8 of the 12SK7 back over here to ground. Made no sense. I don't know if they were trying to bleed some voltage off of that, or another capacitor went bad somewhere that they stuck that in there. Made no sense why it was there whatsoever. It wasn't correct in the circuit, so it was chopped out and done right. Anyway, our new capacitors are wired in. Even went back with the correct style wiring. And one connects here to our audio output tube. I'm sorry, our rectifier tube. It's the 35Z5 rectifier. The other one comes down here. This is our ground on the 12SK or SA7 right here. And the other one goes over here to I don't know my tubes from the bottom side looking up, guys. I'm sorry. I gotta find my schematic here real quick. That is the 12SA7, is where the other side of the electrolytics go. Yeah, and that's the 35Z5 right there. And then the other one is the 12SK7 right there. So we're working on now getting this dial lamp fixed back up. The wires were just absolutely shot on this thing. I moved a wire to get a capacitor out last evening. Trying to find it here in my cup of junk. It just crumbled. This is the wire for the dial light. So I went ahead and hooked in a new black wire. I just got done soldering in the new red wire. I'll take some heat shrink. I'll go back over that, slip it all the way inside to the back of that connection in there, and shrink it up. And then I'll take a bigger one and go over both, really build that up so it can't come loose again. We are out of luck on this iPod. I'm not going to worry about it. We'll just chalk this up to experience that if you want to try to repair it yourself, you can. You take a great risk of either one, damaging the screen, or two, no successful luck at all once you're done repairing the problem that was suggested repair anyway. So you can send it back to Apple for like $65 and they'll repair it or whatever they do and send it back, plus the cost of shipping. But I think I'll keep enjoying my other iPod I have. This one's worked flawlessly for about 5 years now. We don't have any touch buttons, we don't have any touch screen, everything's controlled, right there. It works great. So, heck with it. That's it for now, guys. Thanks for watching. You ever had one of them radios you wish you would have just left on the shelf instead of walking away with it? No, I highly doubt anybody does. I got done working on my dial lamp here. This has been a lot more labor intensive than I ever figured. I figured I'd wire a couple new wires to it, solder it up, heat shrink it, and be done. But then I got to noticing right back in here above my finger, to the right of my tip of my finger, I had a bare wire touching the outside of the socket. Can't have that, because if that shorts, that goes right back to chassis ground and we got a dead short. So I had to get out my buddy liquid tape here and a toothpick and poke that back up on the side of this lamp socket. So now I'll wait for that to dry for a couple minutes and then dab a few more drops in there and probably wait till tomorrow and put it all back together.